That motion does not carry any water whatsoever. They can't tell you can't discuss it.
Right.
So you can talk about it anymore.
Does it need a second? Or just the two-thirds? Okay, do I hear a second to add this agenda item to the agenda? Yes, second. Okay, so to add an agenda item to an already written agenda, it needs a two-thirds vote of the body. So did everyone hear the agenda item to be added? Anyone need it repeated? Peter, you need it repeated? Can you repeat your agenda item, please, Charlie?
My motion is to censure Eduardo Cairo for his unprofessional and unethical behavior that took place on the September 12th practice meeting.
Okay, so to add this item would be a discussion and then a vote of the body. So right now we're voting to add that agenda item on the agenda.
Point of order. We'll probably have an agenda by the time we get around to voting on this. But why would this be immune from the two readings before we have the vote?
The censure?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know.
Is there a privilege motion?
I don't think it is one.
So we would need to have a first consideration of it and then a second one.
Does that consideration, is the second read because you need to bring it back to your constituents, or is that's because the penalty?
The censure itself, not the motion to add to the agenda, I'm just asking the censure motion itself.
So is that a privilege of just the body because it pertains to an issue that happened in our meeting, or is that something that needs to be brought back to the divisions?
I would feel comfortable taking a position on it. Personally.
A motion of discipline from this body is really just a decision that we make to ask the president to make this motion. So it's not something that you need to take back to any kind of decision. So you don't need to take it to the math division and say, I'm in favor of, are you guys in favor of me making this motion? It's for us as a body that did we feel like this was a matter of discipline that the Senate should take?
Charlie, I'm talking about the action. I'm talking about the next step. After, if we do put this on the agenda, I'm just asking, will there be a second read, or is the idea to have a vote on this today?
It's my understanding that we would vote as a committee because it deals with one of our own members. That's my understanding.
This doesn't need to be referred to the department. If you were here, you know what's going on.
So the issue is, it's page 644 in Robert's Rules of Legislation. Melissa, did you have any comment?
It's just a point of information. What is the quorum in here?
The quorum is 18.
18. Does that include alternate senators? So quorum of voting people, right? 18.
What does a censure mean? What does it entail?
I think the definition of censure is a public explanation or a public message of inappropriate behavior.
It's a warning that behavior continue in the future, that we could vote again to have that person removed from the Senate.
Yeah, but doesn't it take two to tango?
Pardon?
Doesn't it take two to tango? I mean, her reaction and his reaction go together. Were it not for hers, he would not react the way he did.
Okay, so we're talking about
discussing
whether or not
it.
to put the censure on the agenda. We're not discussing the censure itself right now. Kris and then Martha.
I don't believe the bylaws allow under any circumstance to have someone removed from this body.
Not asking you.
You said that would be the next step.
Yes, which is in Robert's Rules of Order, that you can, if the behavior continues, that the body or the Senate can vote to have them. It's in Robert's Rules of Order to have them removed from the Senate.
And our bylaws state that our default will vote. So, Martha.
I have a question about the vote you would take. Is that a roll call vote? Because
No, so in matters like this, it wouldn't be anonymous because we need to make sure everyone votes, but it wouldn't be a public vote. Thanks.
Okay, so this is a surprise. I'm looking for some clarity from our, well, actually, before we do any of that, shouldn't we just look for vote to see if this is something we want to move forward with instead of discussing it?
Well, we're not discussing the censure right now. We're discussing whether or not to put this on the agenda.
Okay, so
We should keep our questions to anything that helps us to make that decision.
So can I ask for clarification as to the bylaws? What are the bylaws saying? I know the Robert's rules are there as a guide, and our bylaws state that our default mechanism for running meetings is Robert's rules and orders. But does this incorporate things of censure to assault?
Yes.
So can we have clarification on the bylaws though, in that regard?
No, the bylaws mention Robert's rules, and so I'm.
It's not in the bylaws.
The bylaws indicate that we follow Robert's rules, but they do not express any specific method for removing a senator.
Okay.
Robert's rules, guys. Robert's rules of order.
Can you, okay, so I'm looking at page 644, because what I'm hearing is, I think that it's possible, so where exactly so we should get, I agree with Kite, let's get clarity exactly as to what it is we're asking to do, and so in page 60, you mentioned page 644. So where exactly in page 644, you I'm asking, could you please read exactly what it is that we're going to be doing so that we have clarity according to Robert's Rules of Order?
Charlie, do you want to?
I have the publication, Robert's Rules of Order.
Is this page 644, the one that Valerie mentioned?
It's where the section begins, so it's page 644 to 648, deals with discipline of
Okay,
members.
you can read that, Charlie?
I can make this out if you want.
Point
So
of
there's a
personal,
whole section that's entitled.
point of personal privilege, since we're getting a document now, I would like to request a 5-minute time period so that we may read this.
Sure.
Or if we want to read it out loud, word
Sure,
by
you
word.
can have 5 minutes. if
Okay,
you
can
guys-
we pause the meeting for 5 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
page 644, section. It says frequently such article provides that their imposition on any member found guilty of conduct described, for example, is tending to injure the good name of the organization, disturb its well-being, or harmful in its work. So I think that is true. Possibly that's what we try to decide. We'll try to discuss this.
Gloria?
I apologize for coming late, and if you've already covered this. What are we talking about? A particular incident, or I'm trying to put this in proper perspective.
Charlene's motion is just to add on to the agenda under new business, a discussion about censure. Are there any questions that pertain to this item, Kris?
I think if we are going to put this on the agenda, we're going to open the door for a lot more such issues, and that is going to bog down our meetings and slow us down. According to this statement here, we did not follow proper procedure at the time of that incident, and so we are already in violation of Robert's rules, because as this describes what should happen if someone is disruptive, that did not happen. We just sort of went on with the meeting and ignored it. We didn't deal with it. When someone requests a point of order in a meeting, the meeting has to stop, and that has to be addressed. That did not happen. And so mostly none of what is on this sheet happened. And so then we're going to have to go back and revisit and address this again as to why we didn't follow Robert's rules at the time that the incident happened, which partly allowed the incident to get as bad as it did.
Hey, Marta?
I have to agree here. If we look at this, I mean, the word censure is not in here at all. Yeah, I know, but let me finish here. In regards to, Charlie, I'm going to assume that you're asking for the censure for the events, remarks made on September 12th. Now, with that being the case, I'm assuming, correct me if I'm wrong, but that being the case here, if we take a look at what's being said, I mean, practically every single meeting, we've had members, senators, who are not addressing the president, but are addressing each other. So that in itself could constitute a breach. Would then, at that point, we would have to ask our president to continuously refer to the senator to make the remarks towards her or towards him, in which case we're going to be constantly doing this. And I agree, it's going to be a big can of worms. So if you're going to make this motion, if the motion is going to be made, it should be made specific to a particular event. And again, it takes two to tango, not just one.
Okay, Kaiser?
Charlie, I respect your desire to put this forward, but I do think that there has been, over the past 15 months, several members of this body that have participated in behavior that may or may not be appropriate, depending on people's perspective of appropriateness. So I think we need some clarity as to what is, maybe be more consistent in moving forward with how we behave as a body and how we address each other. I completely understand, but I believe that we should have at least a beginning. I'm not really in favor of the censure. I know we're just in the discussion mode, but I do believe there's been several instances, and not including anyone on the executive committee, but Senate members who've been inappropriate in their dialogue and some use of profanity. So I think that that's important for us to consider as we're moving forward.
I think the issue is the scale at which it escalated, and at any point, anyone in the body is welcome to make a motion to censor anybody. So if people have thought that another member of the group was disrupting the meeting in such a way where even after the chairs asked them to stop, they're more than welcome to censure. So I think that what we have done or what we haven't done in the past is really irrelevant to whether or not we put this on the agenda. So there is a motion that has been seconded, so we should probably vote whether or not we want to put it on and keep the discussion pertaining to that. So, okay, so we have Tim hasn't spoken, Mark hasn't spoken, so I'll call on you first and then we'll return. Tim?
I'm just wondering why the urgency to get it on the agenda as opposed to submitting it as an agenda item following the normal procedure. Normally, I would feel like if there's a motion to add something to the agenda as being made today, that there needs to be an element of urgency to it, that an emergency situation, I don't know that it's qualified.
Okay, well, I can put it on the agenda next time, that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, if we don't think that there's an urgency, it's, I mean, it happened a couple meetings ago, so. It's not my place to put that on the agenda
Right.
unless it's requested of me, so that's why it has not been on the agenda. Mark?
I have nothing to speak about now.
No. Okay, we have Jay, Charlie, Jay, and Melissa.
There's been some discussion about whether or not it was severe enough, and there's been other discussions. What we're just voting on is whether or not to put it on the agenda. I can't talk about all the specifics about it. I have a lot to say about what happened that day. And so that discussion, I think we should all have, because I think it was serious enough that day to have. I don't think it means that all of a sudden there's this can of worms that every time that I disagree with my colleague here that, censure this guy, I disagree with him. I think it's far gone way, way beyond that kind of discussion. And I'd like to have the discussion as a body and as a Senate. So, but what I'm asking for is to be put on the agenda. And so I would love to have it put on the agenda so that we can discuss it. That's my point.
All right, so, Melissa?
Not Jay? Oh, okay. Yeah, so according to this paper, it says if the member obeys at this point, the matter can be dropped or not as the assembly chooses. This seems to be related to at the time that it's happening, if it doesn't subside and if it doesn't get dealt with. So I think in that case, we should consider something like this in the future. But also in terms of having a discussion, I agree completely. We should have a discussion about how we act in these meetings and what rules we need. And that I agree with other senators here who have said that because there's a lack of clarity on our rules and how we run meetings here, lack of consistency, a lack of following Robert's rules from everybody here, there are problems, and a lack of knowledge of Robert's rules, which makes us not able to follow them. A lot of us. Anyway, so my point being that today in the Bylaws report, we spent a lot of time talking about this last Monday, but we have some more details about how meetings should and shouldn't be run. And so maybe after that discussion, we can revisit this and see if that's like a solution. Thanks.
Okay, so I think we should vote on.
Yeah, I could call the question.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to do a roll call.
Point of clarification, please. Could you explain to the body what censure means?
Yeah. So censure basically is just,
And where do you find that definition?
Does someone want to look up the formal definition? I will read it. So.
I'm just saying, here we were going to vote on something, we don't know what means.
Censure has.
Are we continuing the discussion? The question has been called.
Well, right. So. Okay,
But it's a point of clarification. It's just a point of clarification to know what we're voting on, that's all.
This is correct. So the question has been called. Just Google what censure
Point of order, please. Point of order, please.
Yes, what is your point of order? What
I
rule
asked-
are we violating?
I would ask,
Please state what rule we are violating. Point
I
of
would
order.
ask the parliamentarian to define.
Robert's rules state that when you call a point of order, you must state what rule is being violated.
I'm stating that we are violating the rule that we don't know what we're voting on, that's all. I just asked the parliamentarian to give us a definition. What is censure?
Can you point out where that rule is in Robert's Rules of Order?
Okay, I asked that we take a recess until I find it, please. If you want me to do that, I have the book. We can take a recess, allow me to find it. You choose.
No, so the motion, the question has been called. So the motion on the floor is that we add a discussion of censure to new business.
Point of order, we have to vote on the question first.
Sure, I'm sorry. So we're going to vote to call the question. All those in favor of calling the question at this moment say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. Please raise your hand if Sorry. Melissa, Tim, Kristen, Eduardo, Loknath, Gloria, Heitzer, Erica, and me. Okay, and any abstentions besides Krista and Mark? All right, so.
Rosemary abstains. Okay, so that's 10 nays and 16 ayes.
So motion passes. So now we're going to vote on whether to add this item to the agenda, so we'll take a roll call.
Okay, may I now have a point of clarification?
Yes.
Okay, I asked that the parliamentarian or the president provide us with the definition of censure, please.
Okay, so according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the verb is to express severe disapproval of someone or something, typically in a formal statement. The noun is the expression of formal disapproval.
So if I understand right, if the censure goes through, there'll be a formal statement of disapproval?
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to take a roll call vote, and Kris, are you here?
I'm going to vote because I was here for the discussion, and Dave was late, and then I will step down.
Okay, so Kris?
No.
Rod?
No.
Eduardo?
No?
Heitzer?
We're asking to see if we should put this on the agenda?
Yes.
For clarification?
Yes.
Ricky? No. Peter?
Yes.
Russ?
Yep.
Martha?
Yes.
Donna?
Yes.
Charlie?
Yes.
Krista? Melissa?
No.
Loknath?
No.
Kristen Hyatt?
No.
Blanca? Tim?
No.
Gloria?
No.
Sam?
No.
Rosemary?
No.
Miriam?
Yes.
Ani?
Yes.
Erica?
No.
Mark?
Abstain.
Bevel?
Yes.
Jay?
Yes.
Sheila? Yes. Okay, did I miss anybody? Okay, let me count. Okay, there's 10 yeses, there's more noes, so the motion fails.
Okay, so we can formally put that on the agenda for next week for Tim's suggestion. Okay, so going on, do we have any public comments? Actually, sorry, we need to approve the minutes.
Point of order, please. Point of clarification.
Yes.
If the Senate voted not to have it on the agenda, you're now going to put it on the agenda?
Well, Tim today. So that was Tim and Mark brought up the urgency of the situation, which is why the motion from the floor is on there, so.
It was just for today.
Well, I don't think that wasn't the motion.
I wasn't clear about that at all. I just
Today or
assumed that
next
I
week,
just
next
didn't want it on the agenda, that it didn't say for today. Yeah.
So, may I ask to have this put on the agenda for next time? I mean,
Sure.
that doesn't need to be a motion, but.
No, if you email me and then I'll
email you.
consider it. Okay, so we need to approve the minutes for September 26th. If there are no objections, the minutes will be approved as submitted.
Yeah.
Eduardo?
In the minutes that I received, it says August 26th. Is that correct? Let me see, September, okay, 26th. But nowhere in there is the statement that I made regarding the minutes. And Stephanie saying that she's only going to put she's going to erase it, only put that there was a statement was made between Valerie Foster, Kris West, and myself. That's not in here. So I think that needs to be added to the minutes. Right, it's a reflection of what occurred. Okay, so just to clarify then, well then, on Could you tell me the statement that will be added, so that for the following minutes, that statement can be added to that?
Can you just repeat the statement that you would like?
Sure.
Sheila will write it down.
That Stephanie agreed to erase those minutes regarding the verbatim conversation, and will replace it with the statement that discussion was had between between myself, Valerie, and Kris. I'll send it to you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other amendments? Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes with that amendment, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Melissa and Kristen? We have public comments?
I wasn't here.
Okay, moving on, we have a special guest, Kris Pilon is going to give us a Day of the Dead presentation. You have 10 minutes to address the body.
I wanted to speak a little bit about the Day of the Dead, which is getting to be a really popular holiday. I was just over at Starbucks, and they now have Day of the Dead cookies. And so it's everywhere, and yet I'm not sure people really know what it's about. And based on the fact that our students have been working with a local coffee shop to do posters for the Day of the Dead for the last 6 years, I thought it might be appropriate to share some of the visual images with you. And I also have a guest here, Viviana Aparicio Chamberlain, who is a great supporter of the college. She's worked with the President's Latino Advisory Committee. She has given a scholarship in her mother's name for Latino students involved in the arts. And she's a local artist who lives here in Pasadena, a very well-known artist. And she'll talk a little bit about the Day of the Dead. But I wanted to let you know that we're part of what's called the Graphic Communications Technology Program. That dates back to the early 1950s at PCC, when after World War II, the government under the WPA wanted to develop new technologies and train people in skills that might generate more business and sort of more things for people to do to make money. Currently, screen printing is found everywhere. Anytime you go in a fast food restaurant, the menu boards are all screen printed. Advertisements that you see, signage from freeway signs to parking lot graphics, stickers, decals, clothing, custom applications like watch faces and circuit boards are done by this process, and more. It's known as the print anything process. In our classes, the students learn the technical skills. They apply these to graphics printed on a wide variety of surfaces. They learn both computer techniques and the screen printing techniques which they combine to create these graphics. 6 years ago, we were invited to participate in this Day of the Dead activity at the Zona Rosa coffee shop, which is on El Molino, kind of right next to the Pasadena Playhouse. And they have a gallery upstairs, and they display our posters along with a lot of other local art. They've been doing it for 22 years. So we latched on to this. We've been doing it now for 6 years. It's a great opportunity for our students to get their work exhibited. They have to conform their designs to certain restraints and constraints. They have production deadlines like they would in a commercial business, and it's an opportunity to sell their work. So we're passing some of the posters around. You can just kind of send them back and forth around the room so that you can see what incredibly beautiful and professional things our students do. So these are absolutely original pieces of art created by students. This one in and with a little sense of humor. There's even a little skeleton worm in the tequila bottle to go for the Day of the Dead. So it's a really fun project. All of our students participated in it, every ethnic group, and they all find some connection to their ancestors and expressing some kind of respect and concern for the dead through this project. And so I'll let Viviana talk a little bit more about specifically the Day of the Dead.
I'm so happy to be here at my alma mater. I've been here since 1960. That was a history class I had to take here. And then when I went to Immaculate studying bacteriology and I had trouble with German. It was so impossible. And I came here and that teacher helped me. He was such a great teacher and I wish I knew his name. But that furthers the concept of community college. My sons came here, John and Ricardo, and the philosophy is that my husband felt that community college was the place for them and for beginning students, because community colleges teachers I believe it, are devoted to those first years and to that time in their lives, while the four-year university stresses the upper division. So that, however, I'm still here. I'm still taking classes, thank you. So I'm continually growing, and I think that was one of the philosophies, right? Continual education. Yeah, and I've offered scholarships in my mother's names, and these are the students. Naomi Zarate Medina, right here, and Mildred Gorea. And Mildred's in graphics art, she's not art center. And then Naomi is up north, Cal State. She comes from a real poverty family, but she got a lot of help through the Mexican American Scholarship Committee, GOPA, different groups that helped her. What is Day of the Dead? I think basically, that it's about family history, because you are at a date called All Saints, and you're remembering those who have passed. So that's history in the past. And so you therefore learn to know yourself. And it's happy, it's not macabre. It's a happy time, and that's why I think, in a way, some places have gone overboard, with the celebrations. And, but basically, it's a happy place to be at, which is almost ironic, You're at a place honoring the dead, and it's a happy memory place. And you are creating beautiful things at this ritual place. So I mentioned All Saints on November 1st. So this is an indigenous-based event from the Indians. The Christian European is All Souls, and the indigenous has a little bit of that Christian, because the Mexicans and Central Americans were a mixture, aren't we? The indigenous, the Christian, and the Indian. But the whole point is at that day of the year you honor, and you want them to come back. You want those souls to come back and return. And that's why you see that wonderful flower, Cempasúchil, the marigold. It has this tremendous aroma. The marigold, and that's what Indians do, and that's what we do with our altars. We make a little path of the marigold petals to the house or to wherever, and that's going to lure the spirit to the altar, is that beautiful aroma of that flower. And then you have the incense and the candles and the religious items, but a very important part of it is the earthly objects. The earthly objects of the remembered person. Perhaps that person liked to play soccer, you will have a soccer ball there. Or that person liked steak, and you have a little meal there, or like little tamales or something for that spirit to come back. So you want the spirit to return, and you're going to court and seduce that spirit to come. And you also see traditional goodies like the sugar skull, papel picado, which is very beautiful Mexican art, that cut paper that you can buy now. They do it by machines, but there are Chicano Mexican artists that cut by hand. And there's a lovely, you go I think there's some bakeries here in Pasadena that will make pan de muertos, special bread, and it's made in different forms for Day of the Dead. I want to share with you a few items, but I'm just going to say that we have Dia de los Muertos. It's very common, the honoring of the dead, and you see it in contemporary rituals. For example, on I think it's Orange Grove on the northeast, someone was killed several weeks ago, and you drive by there and you see memories and signs and candles. And when you think about it, that's an altar, isn't it? It's a roadside altar to remember somebody, and there's a sense of joy, even though it's full of grief there's flowers and balloons, and maybe if it's a child, there'll be stuff there. So there's this sense of happy or hope. I've been involved, and thank you, Pasadena, and now the Visual Arts Department have been involved with Day of the Dead with a community under Blue Milagro, and this is teachers who volunteer, who know art and know history, and they go into the schools. For example, Jefferson School, Madison School, Sierra Madre School, and we have Art Center, and various other little public schools. And we work with the students on knowing their history. And the project is to interview your mom, or if you're fortunate to have grandparents, you interview them about someone who has passed. And so they learn about their grandma or grandpa. It's sad to say that often we don't really tell the kids our grandparents' names or their jobs or where they're from. So this is a good way for kids to learn about their amazing inheritance. For example, they make little cereal boxes, and it's a little altar like that. And I'll always remember this little boy that was so thrilled that was looking for wrestling cards, but you only see baseball cards, but he wanted to show how his grandpa was a wrestler, and he was so proud of that. So,
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I just, before I'm going to give you this 5 seconds, and I want to thank Inscape, the award writers, and they awarded my poem about the eternal love of the deceased. Okay, and I want to say it real quick as I walk away. They say that the dead lie in peace, that there is no suffering in the other mansion, that the body dies but not the soul, and it is with my soul that I love you with blind passion, con ciega pasión. My grandmother wrote that for the children before she died.
Cuatt, who's the chair of the Bylaws and Rules Committee. Maybe you have 5 minutes to address the body.
Dave, could I make my quick comment about this? It's related.
May I ask you for a comment, please?
Sure. Very quickly.
I only have 5 minutes.
Oh, you mean after?
Quick.
Okay, for the good of this body and the senators in it, I would kindly request that we keep our microaggressions in check, and this feeds right into what we're going to talk about in the Bylaws Committee. At the beginning of last Senate meeting, when I seconded a motion made by another senator, after much back and forth and some rewording from the Secretary of the Senate, I and other senators were understandably confused as to what the original motion had been. So I requested clarification before we were to vote on it. That was met with not so subtle chiding of, how can you not know what the motion is when you yourself seconded it, Melissa, from the president and a neighboring senator. In fact, it was a rather interesting double standard to me when the president herself had to call on the secretary to repeat it. The Bylaws Committee has added something to our suggestions that might relate to this. At the same meeting, I was also put on the agenda to present without being consulted. That was a non-professional oversight at best, or a passive-aggressive maneuver at worst. Again, we've added something to bylaws. Finally, at the end of this meeting, that meeting last time when the topic of Robert's Rules came up, the implicit assumption was that I was the only one that was unfamiliar with Robert's Rules, when in fact multiple members of the body had indicated to me a desire to learn more. I feel that the invitation for me to meet in private with the president to find out more about Robert's Rules was disingenuous. A question or admission of a lack of knowledge on a topic must not be dismissed as an individual's deficiency, when in fact our actions here are intended to be for the benefit of all. That might discourage future questions from being raised by that person or others in the Senate. After all, we would never single out a student in our classes in this manner, would we? Nevertheless, in the spirit of civility, I wanted to bring this to the body's attention. I'm not looking for an apology or censure, but rather I will happily put this to rest in the hopes that future questions and motions from senators will be treated with the respect and dignity that they deserve, because all opinions and questions contributed by this body are valid. Thanks.
You have 2 minutes and 45 seconds.
Thank you. Inside the first box are rules which we believe are already in effect in the Senate. and we believe they'd already been voted on, but we looked in the minutes, we found they were referred to, but had never, they were voted on, but we can't find in the minutes what they were. Back in February, February 22nd, we said, yes, I like rule number 1, I like rule number 3. We voted for the rules to go in, but somehow they never wound up actually in the minutes. But we believe they're valid, and so we discussed them as best as we could recreate them, which was pretty accurately, at our meeting on October 3rd. So these 6 are the ones we could agree on in our bylaws meeting, which are the same rules that we've been working under for a while. They've been tweaked a little just for clarity. There's a couple rules that aren't there, as it says in italic, but they haven't been thrown out. We just hadn't reached an agreement yet, and we wanted to get work done. So we said, okay, we'll talk about it later. So I think it's the request from the Bylaws Committee that we'd ask this to be put on an agenda to be voted on, just to make sure that we did vote on it. Because right now there is no public record that we voted on any rules, even though they're referred to in the record. You get what I'm saying? We're referring to rules that we don't have any official record of. So this is just a for fun we can say, yeah, these are the rules, yeah. We can look at it. The second box are some of the ideas that came out of discussion, out of coming through the last year of meetings. I really like, if you're wondering, number 20 on the back side. It's a great idea from one of our members. For the sake of clarity, motions under discussion should appear on the screen. Heck, why not? We're not sure how many of these actually are rules, but just ideas that we've come up with on the back side. There's a whole bunch of them. The idea is we want to consider transparency, legality, discussion, efficiency, and that's kind of been our grid that we followed in discussing. Oh boy, there's too many to go over in even 30 minutes. And we're only halfway through the file. That is, we have about, as it says at the top, 4 hours of work, we've got half of it done. So I'm not sure what to ask. Maybe we can certainly ask, if possible, for someone to move that we approve the first 6 there, which I think they are essentially the same ones that appeared as a handout at our meeting on last meeting. They were kind of a horizontal format with black and gray stripes across. And I suppose we could vote on these if you like.
Motion to extend by 5 minutes.
Okay, do I have a second? Second. All those in favor of extending 5 minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? I prefer to, I know for a fact that we voted on at least 2 of these at the beginning of last year. Stephanie has that record. I know she's looked these up, so I would be reluctant to vote on these again if you already have. To what extent did you guys come to figure out?
Went through these minutes and looked for the word vote. What did we vote on and what was it?
Okay.
And was there the word parliamentarian or bylaws? We looked there too.
Okay.
It was only the last year that we didn't go back to back. Trying to find what have we done, and definitely on February 22nd we voted a bunch of rules, possibly 8 rules. And they're referred to in the minutes, but there's no actual piece of them that's in, just a minute, sir. So, number 16, it's recommended in the future if we have items that are part of our proceedings, we should put them in the minutes and not forget to include them as JPEGs or PDF or as text files, so we can have a full record of what we have. And now we'll stop talking.
In regards to voting, on number 5, under time extension should not exceed time, I think what we should include, this was a statement that was made by our president last meeting, that there is an unlimited number of extensions. So not only should we say time extension should not exceed the time allotted for original motion, report topic, but that there's also an unlimited number of extensions.
Mm-hmm.
This way we all know that there's an unlimited number of extensions.
Yeah, number 4 is like, how do we decide if something's pressing? Because it is, right? Yeah, true. We can say it's pressing, we're going to stay here all night, which would be cool if it was pressing.
But right, but would you? I don't know.
I don't know what our limit is.
So I'm just saying we should add that. And then under 7 and 9, I was going to mention this, and I'm glad you guys did. Today we're going to be hearing a a presentation by Dr. Juni, and I asked him to provide me with a list of speaking points of the topic, and which he graciously did. And the reason I did that is because I then forwarded it to our faculty in our division, so this way they can provide me with any type of input regarding this matter. So what I think we should do, perhaps we can include this in terms of our rules, is rather than just having the senators receive the agenda, why not send it to all faculty? This way the faculty can get it, and if they have any type of input, they can then call upon us, and then we can provide that information. Because a lot of times we've said, you know what, I can't vote on it right now because my division hasn't heard about this. And this could save us time, because by having our faculty receive it on Thursday, that would give them some amount of time to read it and contact us and say, you know what, could you please mention this or mention that? And I think that would be beneficial. Right, that's what I'm saying. I think it's a good idea.
I'd like to add, in addition to number 9, I would like to see some kind of a time limit. I find that very often I get some of these attachments not in a timely manner, that I have the time to read them and digest them and then come in and take action on them. So I think it would help us if we actually had a time, whether it be, 72 hours or whatever. And that's just a suggestion. I'm not throwing that number
The Brown
out.
Act says that you have to get all these documents 72 hours in advance if we're going to vote on them.
Exactly, and I would like to see
Packet is
that.
sent out on Thursday, which is 72 hours, more than 72 hours.
I would like to see that reiterated in bylaw number 9, because I agree that it would help if faculty in the division would also get copies. I don't always, in that 72 hours, have time to contact the people in my division and get their opinion on how I should vote.
Our motion is to vote on the first 6 to clarify the vote.
No, this is just a committee report.
Oh, just a committee report. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, the Senate has been generous. I did the math, finally, not being a math person. Like 72 hours is Friday, 3 o'clock. Yikes. So doing it on Thursday is a great service to the faculty. It gives you time to know what's happening before you disappear into the weekend. Anyway, we have lots of suggestions and ideas, and we'll probably have another batch next, if we can be on the agenda for the next meeting, and then the Senate can decide if it wants to vote on things or what to do.
Charlie?
I'm still not clear about 1 through 6. Supposedly we voted on them already as a Senate. And hang on.
Yes, sure.
We voted on 1 through 6 already. But you've gone through, it says, the list here with slight edits for clarity. So you've taken the original ones and edited them slightly. And do we have that list of edits?
I can get a list of what we think the original ones are, but there is no list of the original ones anywhere. We have a handout, here's a handout from way back when. We have some good notes from people that remember that were there, but in the record, there's nothing. There's like, just to say that, I like recommendation number 1, I like 3, I'm gonna vote for 4.
So that's why I asked it to hold on the voting, because Stephanie has that record.
Okay.
She's brought that to the board a couple of times. So, okay, thank you, Dave.
Sure, thanks.
Alrighty, and our next is the calendar committee. Loknath, you'll have 10 minutes to,
You're generous with your time. Okay, first of all, I have 3 things ready to report. The first one is that in the summer, usually we have a week after, between the time summer starts and classes finish. Okay, the administration is saying that because of the time the academic year is finishing, they want to start classes immediately. In other words, they want to start classes on June 25th, okay, instead of the following week. And the reason given is because they said that you usually have to have census before July 1st in order to divide the money between the 2 years. And if they don't do that, then they'll have to put the whole burden on the following year, and they don't want to do that. Okay, so that's the first thing. That's what they proposed, and the calendar committee has accepted it. But still, we can discuss.
I just want to clarify, you said June 25th or?
Yes, June
Okay.
25th.
Instead of what?
June 26th, instead of the following week. We usually have a week between, like we would have that whole week, June 26th to 30th, and start in July, right? Normally the July 3rd.
So instead of starting July 3rd, we started 26th.
Yes.
Now, I know in the past this was discussed and the secretaries were against it because they needed
Yes.
something to prepare. Are they they have representation on the committee?
Especially the sciences, yes, they have. The secretary of the sciences said they would like the extra week to prepare. We have had years of discussion on this in the calendar committee, the sciences versus humanities, and eventually we decided that we should have the week, but they said this time we can't have it.
So it was the committee's decision not to have that week?
Well, no, not a committee decision. It was the administration recommendation.
I just want to comment, this question of where that summer session starts impacts courses in geosciences and environmental sciences, because we have field classes and we can't take them out until later in the summer. And if it starts a week later, and so this ends up pushing these classes over holidays, and it's hard to get camping during those times. So it's really jammed up a lot of our upper level courses, like our courses, capstone courses. And we're waiting right now for word on when we can book things. And so we've already lost a number of camping opportunities while we're waiting for the word. And it wasn't clear to me, what did the community want to do about this? I couldn't hear you, what you said.
Well, the committee was just told that this was the case, and they seemed to agree, but we didn't have a vote on it.
You don't have a vote, okay. Thank you. So there's no week off in between?
No.
No week off?
The semester ends on the 25th of June and the beginning of the 26th, Sunday the 25th.
Mark?
I'm the co-chair of the calendar.
Yeah.
Also the whole Dr. June co-chair. The calendar as it is right now has already been passed by the board.
Yeah.
So this is the official calendar. It's going to start on whatever that is.
Yeah, June 26th.
And what they're talking about is they want to move it up a week, but that would have to go all the way back to the whole process. That process hasn't been, we just heard about it.
To the 19th?
No. They want to move the July 1st or 2nd to the 26th. No, 216. Sorry.
I'll ask Terry to be
So if I can clarify, so Mark is correct. The current calendar that has been approved by the board, summer of 17 starts on the 26th. It is I that am asking that we reconsider that, because by starting on the 26th, none of our summer classes can be used for apportionment for the year that we are currently in, the 16-17 year. Because to do that, census has to occur before July 1st. And so by moving the start date to the week of June 19th, and some classes would start on the 19th, most likely classes wouldn't start until the 21st, and I realize the issues that there are in different areas about prep time, I realize issues of getting grades, all of that. And so the idea is they would probably start on the 21st, and that would make it possible for some of those classes, many of those classes, to have their census in the 16-17 academic year, so that we could count those courses to this year's 320 report if we needed to. We may not, but the point is that if they overlap the 2 years, you can count them either way, and that would give us that possibility. We have concerns right now where we are with our fall enrollments are a little bit low. We don't yet know what spring's going to be like, and so we wanted that opportunity basically to be able to count summer either for this academic year, fiscal year, or next academic fiscal year.
Okay, I understand completely what you're saying. Is this being presented for us to take back to our divisions for discussions and vote? Or is this being presented to tell us what is going to happen?
It's actually, the discussion has just begun, nothing's been voted on, nothing's even been moved. So, because Dr. Boone wasn't there for the first calendar meeting, Dr. Bell was still there. It's basically been all put off until the next meeting. So there's been no motion or anything that's come up for this. So far, it's just been a brief discussion.
So is it then recommended that we take it to our divisions or wait?
You can take a revision, let's see.
Take it to the division and say this is the first.
The next meeting is the 20th.
Okay.
Next calendar committee is on October 20th.
I would just recommend, I'm not sure who created this calendar, but if it would be at all possible to mark draft on it somewhere with a date, because then we don't, unless it's there and I don't see it, because that would alleviate any confusion.
It's not a draft. That
It's not
is
a
the
draft.
official
This is
calendar
the
right
official
now,
calendar.
as it stands.
Okay, so maybe
What they
it
would
could
like to do
say,
is change the official calendar, which would have to go all the way back through the process and go to the board and have them approve.
okay, so then maybe then it would say approved by calendar committee on whatever date.
No, by the board.
By the-
This has been approved by the board.
This has been approved by the board. Okay, so if that could be on there somewhere, so we know that where this
Just
is in the process, because we
official.
know we've had issues with the process in the past. My recommendation, thanks.
Just a point of clarification, what has been approved by the board? To begin on the Wednesday on the 21st?
No, the
Or on the
26th.
26th?
The
This is
26th.
the official calendar right here.
The 26th. What they're asking is they begin on the
On the
19th.
20th.
So this is
The
2017.
request now is to begin on the week before the
For
19th.
mine,
But officially, as it stands, it's
It's on the 26th.
Maybe we should stop cross conversations. Can we get some order in here, please?
you guys kick that down.
okay, no, so-
Okay. Who else have any other?
That's the wrong one.
I'm a little confused because there's really nothing on that calendar except holidays.
Well, that's because that's the wrong calendar.
That's the 17-18 calendar, not the 16-17 calendar.
Do you have the 16-17? Should be on the website.
Yeah.
It's on the website.
You mean for,
Yes.
Well, if we would start in June, it starts with the first summer session. Everything up until the first summer session is, we're going to do the same.
Down. Right.
June 2017.
No, 26. First day of class,
Monday.
summer session. Just a minute.
Monday, 26, yeah.
Okay.
So you can see that the yellow is
The last finals week.
Finals week.
finals week, the green is
The week.
no classes in session. So what they would like to do is move summer up to that green area.
Yeah.
Dr. Judy, you said something about starting the summer session on Wednesday, the 21st.
key, when the grades here.
Why not on Monday?
For the purpose of what I said, in other words, for us to be able to collect apportionment for classes in summer, it could start on the 19th, 20th, 21st, or the 22nd, and that would allow for that to happen. And so, you know, when I first brought it forward, I said, let's start on the 19th, and then there was conversation about it, and the issue was then enough time to get grades in for math sequence classes, English sequence classes, also the prep time that is necessary for some of the science labs and things of that nature. So we were trying to say, well, what if we did it on Wednesday? Would that allow for, not a whole week, but it would at least give a couple of days after the semester was over for those sorts of things. But it could start it could start Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, and that would allow census for those classes to go. I have also thrown out the idea that we could have, and I don't know that Pasadena City College has ever done this before, but for some classes that this doesn't work, that they could still start on the 26th, so that we would have two different starts. We'd have those classes that were starting during the week of the 19th, and we'd have those classes starting on the 26th. The ones that start on the week of the 26th, we wouldn't be able to count toward this year if we needed, but the ones that started during the week of the 19th, we would. And then the other thing, if I can say also, I would also say, although Mark didn't say that, I did miss that calendar committee meeting, but I would ask that you take this out to your constituents so that we can get input from them in regard to various issues that this might be causing.
Okay, so if I understand it right, your next meeting is October 20th.
October 20th.
So do we need to call a special meeting with the Senate to decide on this so that you guys can consider the faculty opinion at that meeting, or do you, yeah, so that's, because that would be, our next meeting wouldn't be till the 24th, so we have to
Well,
call a
actually,
special
that would
meeting.
be, we would know on the 20th if we do it on that day, right?
Okay, so you don't need faculty feedback before that meeting.
The Senate approved it after it's brought to you.
Okay, so you're just getting verbal feedback right now. And so do you want any of the senators to send you guys additional feedback as they get it from their constituents? Is that okay?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, all right. So we're out of time, so if we want to extend the conversation, I need that motion.
Motion to extend by 5 minutes?
Do I have a second to extend?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of extending 5 minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
Okay.
Cheryl?
I know what our group is going to ask is, they're going to ask with the new date, when would grades be due?
When would grades be due?
Yeah.
Oh, as usual, we used to do it before.
For those on the 16th, right?
Have grades and start
So
classes.
legally, it's 3 days after the end of the semester?
3 days.
72 hours after.
So
So it's still
Tuesday midday,
Tuesday.
Tuesday?
by Tuesday midday, yeah.
So it would be due on the 20th, 21st, 20th. Okay.
I'd like to request that either the Senate Executive Committee or maybe someone from the Calendar Committee send an email to all faculty with that explanation that we're thinking of, the college is thinking of doing this. This is the reason why. And get the feedback. And this way, you know, by the time they meet on the 20th, they have that information already. We can save a lot of time.
Can I give them your name, Mark, as co-chair?
You're welcome.
Okay.
Okay, two other points I had.
Okay, Loknath and then Charlie.
The next one was that is a proposal that we have the Friday before the semester starts to have a convocation day. Okay, I know that they don't want to have it the whole day because it will bring in the union. They were just saying that we're going to just have, you know, a meeting. The president is going to talk about the college and what have you, but he said the administration likes the idea of having us meeting the Friday before the semester begins.
Well, we can also have a conversation with the union, because since we're going to a flexible flex calendar, it could be
That's the third
possible
point
to
I have.
negotiate that as our flex day. Or a possible duty day, if you wanted to get flex credit, which would kill two birds with one stone, but we haven't had that conversation yet.
Just for the record, okay, just for the record, the union, the evil FA, we are not against a convocation day. All we want is we want to make sure if the administration's going to say you have to be here, that you get paid for that. That's
I don't think they're willing to pay.
all we care about. You can have a convocation day. Just pay us, damn it.
Well, that's what they're trying to avoid, sir.
Oh.
Nobody. If I could dovetail on what Eduardo suggested, that you send out an email to faculty and say, contact UFA, rather than all contacting him if there's contact their senators. And I would hate to be Mark and get emails from 200 people that have an opinion. I think, can I suggest that, Eduardo, to come back?
No,
to
absolutely.
Then you would contact them.
Sure.
I would contact them. Be a lot easier.
Good idea.
Everybody.
And the third point that was mentioned was the flexible flex that you talked about, that in the 17 to 18 calendar, we have no flex days because you're going to have flexible flex. Is that our understanding?
Not me, we voted in this body.
Yeah, I know, that's what was recommended by saying, I don't know. Yeah, but,
Dave and then on.
Briefly, someone probably knows better than me, but if a student is taking English 1A in the spring, and their grade is not reported until the Tuesday of the summer, how can they take English 1B or C in the summer? Because they haven't finished their, you know what I mean? There's an overlap.
the
So
teacher
they-
usually checks the mid-semester grades and so on.
But is that a person who can stop though, possibly? It's not a guarantee. I mean, how do we-
No.
Okay, that's a consideration.
I think we still have that issue, sometimes grades aren't due by the time they're registering for the next semester, so it depends on the midterm report. That's why it's important to file this accurately. Terry, do you have a response?
If a student is registered in English 1A during the spring, they can register for summer for the next course, that's the prerequisite. When the grades come in, if they fail, they will be deregistered. And that's why we'd also like enough time for grades to be in so that that can happen and vacate that seat for someone who actually can have it.
Will that happen on Monday?
Bonnie's next.
For the spring of 2017, I have that Thursday, March 9th is Flex Day. Is that still the case?
2017?
2016? Yeah, we have,
Yeah, March 9th?
yeah, 17. we have
2017, yes, but 2017, 18. And finally, in terms of 2018, these are the following dates you're considering. January 8th, okay, to February 15th for the winter intersession. February 20th to June 11th, June 9th or something like that. No. We didn't determine what, at least I don't have when we should, the semester end. I have June 11th, but that may not be
Can
true.
you email everybody those dates?
Okay, yeah, but they were just discussed, they're not decided on. And then finally, the mid-semester break is April 16th to the 22nd or 24th. Yes, I will. I'll email it to you and you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, our 5 minutes are up. Are we okay? Okay. All right, so moving on, thank you, Loknath. Moving on to constituency reports, FA, we will report.
Nothing really to report, just a reminder that we're going to have a meeting in Kremlin on October 20th. And the person that is running for Senate in the area, Anthony Portantino, will be there. If you would like to meet him, you can talk to him. If you have any questions, he'll be there. And there's free lunch. And I would like to reserve the right to come back and talk about this list that we just saw today.
Yes, tomorrow we're having a meeting to select some new academic senators, because the other ones got classes. And there's a couple of things we're considering about the role of an academic senate. One, obviously you have to go to the meetings. Two, you have to read all the material that Judy sends us. Three, you have to discuss the issues with your constituents. Four, you have to go to the committee meetings so we can come up with some unified policy. Five, you have to scan the college email to see if there's anything going on. 6, you need to do the committee work. And 7, you have to be from a different constituency, each senator. 1, we're paid for. 2 through 7, we're not paid for. And that's part of the problem. That's all I have.
Associated students? I'm sorry, do you have a question?
What time are you meeting and where?
2 o'clock and C, 3:25.
When?
Tomorrow.
C2.
Yeah.
2:30. C2:30.
One by the door.
C3:30.
Oh, it's right by the Senate office.
See what?
2:25, I was right.
Okay, student rep has left.
She apologized and said she had a class.
Okay. Alrighty, so we're on to our officer reports. My report's real brief. We had a successful Flex Day. Hearing nothing but good things about the keynote speaker. So stay tuned for equity pathways and encourage your faculty to be involved with them. That'll be sustained PD training for the year, and everyone's welcome to participate in that. Vice President?
Excuse me, Valerie?
Yes.
Could you either today or the next meeting give us an update on CAPA meetings, what's happening there, and College Council? Thank you.
Yeah, so for the College Council, we put on the APs that are brought. So for instance, the AP 3250 was brought to College Council last time, and that's why it's on the agenda now. Alrighty, moving on to Executive Committee recommendations. So our first recommendation,
Can we get a copy of his presentation?
yeah, it'll be posted on the Flex and the Equity Committee website. So yeah, I'll send an email out about that.
Question? Was there, I know last year there were surveys that went around. Were there surveys this year? Because I wasn't.
Surveys that went around.
About, the success or like how faculty enjoyed the lunch or how they, how the orientation was, etc.
Yeah, so there was in your folder. If you got your folder?
No, I was absent.
Okay, so there's a link to evaluate the keynote speaker, and then when you went to workshops, there are links to evaluate that as well. So as soon as we tally those up, those will be published.
Is there an approximate time when those might be?
We have a stack of 1,200 evaluations that need to be handed to it, so I really don't know.
Not electronic? Not electronic? You have them ready?
No.
Okay.
Only for the keynote.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to Executive Committee recommendations. So the first item is to approve Blanca Rodriguez from Health Sciences to the Institutional Effectiveness Committee. May I have a motion to approve her?
Move approval.
Do I have a second? By
Second.
Martha. Discussion? All those in favor of approving Blanca say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you for volunteering for that. Our next Executive Committee recommendation are for Senate subcommittees. We have 2 approvals for individuals to be on committees, and then we have an approval for the creation of a Student Success Committee, which is one of our academic Senate goals. You have the proposed mission statement and charge as part of your packet. May I have a motion to approve these 3 items? Have a second?
Second.
Second by Terry. Discussion? Eduardo?
So, under this mission statement, the committee, they're going to provide instructional, stewardship, academic sports. I don't know who wrote this, but can we get more information on how exactly all this is going to occur? That creating connection between in and out classroom experiences to promote student success. I mean, how is that going to?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. What did you say?
How is this going to happen? Say, for example, provide instructional student services, academic support areas with opportunities to engage in ongoing dialogue regarding the student success needs of the college. So are we talking about the classroom or the overall experience? Say for, how does that, okay, so that would include the classroom.
Instructional improvement.
Okay, so how is the committee going to improve the classroom experience of the student if they're not part of the classroom? Are they going to contact the professors?
I imagine that the committee members will be composed of instructional and non-instructional faculty, and that they will decide what process they would use to gather information. So, I mean, common ways to do that are surveys, or if they're reps, they can ask their area people directly.
But but is there? I mean, I don't know who wrote this. Is the person who wrote this in here?
This is coming. No, so this is coming out of. Miriam, do you want to speak to this at all?
Sure. Armando Duran wrote it based on several descriptions of student success committees at a couple of different campuses that we've come across. It's left pretty broad because it really is meant to be responsive to the needs as they arise, as we evaluate them, and as we work together to try to create an environment that's conducive to student success.
Right, but in some cases, we're not talking about an environment, we're simply talking about problems that students have inside the classroom. So it says here, support interventions needed to improve student retention and success. So if a student or students are having difficulties with the class, doesn't matter which class it is, does that mean that this intervention, they're going to contact the professor?
It could, if that seems to be the way that things work out.
But how does that determine? Because you say it could happen, but how do you determine that intervention needs to occur with the professor? I mean, has anyone actually thought out the steps? So I would like to see the steps, in other words. I agree. I mean, whatever we can to help them out is fantastic, but if it's so broad that we don't know what exactly it is that we're doing, like, what steps are we going to do to support intervention?
So I think the point is, once we create a committee and we have a charge, it's up to the committee members to define that process and then bring any sort of policy or procedure change to this body. Well, going to Kaiser and Martha, because Kaiser was one of the people who suggested this at our academic retreat.
Okay. Love the way the words were placed. I'm surprised, I remember having the dialogue, but the way that this is written goes back to student equity. If we're talking clarity, right? Just to clarify the issue. So we wanted to talk about how we support students, but we need to be careful of the articulation. I think the key phrase here is the committee engages in research, analysis, dialogue, and then the key point here is implementation of initiatives to ensure college access and promote overall student learning and success. Nowhere in there do I hear intervention in the classroom in regards to instructional strategies. So there's a couple of questions, and even before, I would ask my colleagues to look at, even before we approve this committee, even though we have a discussion at the retreat, I completely own that. But I think that we have to be careful as to what it's stating. So what's happening under the core purposes is a little bit different than what the committee engages in research. So I think we do need some clarity. And I think if this is directly related to student equity numbers, which I remember talking about at the retreat, it should be articulated because that's where we're going. That's what was discussed at the professional development day or the flex day was all the student equity numbers or the gaps. So I think if we're going to look at gaps and then use gaps to be able to do the research or support student success, I think that needs to be clearly articulated even before we approve the committee.
Do you have an amendment to it?
I have a suggestion that we wait so that we can look at some additional items. I think if there's going to be any amendment, we need to look at student equity numbers. We need to clarify how student equity numbers are being looked at.
So let's just add it to this, is that as
and
part
I would
of
take out the core purpose bullet points. I think we need to be really clear that the committee engages in research, analysis, dialogue, and implementation of initiatives. And we need to clarify the initiatives in relationship to student equity, from my understanding.
I mean, I think the core purposes are for clarification.
But they don't support the sentence I just, that's my concern.
I would like to know, rather, before I would vote to approve this, I would like to know who the committee should be made of. I mean, are we envisioning, I don't care if it's total number, but I'd like to know, is it 50% faculty, or the faculty representing equally divisions around? Because I could see something like this, at least with these core purposes, that you could end up having this committee being, moving in one direction if it's not got feedback from other areas. So I think there needs to be some sort of thought about what the makeup of that is, because as it's written and as I'm seeing the core purposes here, that would seem to be important if those end up being part of it. And likewise with if we're looking at research, at data, because then how are we looking at data? Do we understand what those data mean in different areas of the college? Because they mean different things. We talked about this in natural sciences. Our course is self-selecting. There's different issues. So that would be my concern.
Well, my understanding is this is an academic senate committee, so it would be made up of faculty.
And from where are they coming? Evenly from different divisions? Are they all from counseling? Are they all from one area or another? Should they be, that's what I want to see.
Russ and Melissa?
I make a motion to separate this from the other two issues and we can go on separately.
Sure, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of splitting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay, so we'll consider this one first. We'll continue our discussion. Any other comments?
So this is a Senate subcommittee. Will any of the members of the committee be getting any stipends or anything for professional development or student equity or anything like that? Or
It'll count towards our 5.5 hours of shared government.
Okay.
Anyone else need to speak who hasn't spoken? Tim?
The question was raised about the makeup of the committee. Do we have any other committees that demand some sort of proportional representation?
Yeah, college council, those that have like procedures that govern them, in Senate, no.
Okay.
So, this has been a discussion regularly about, do we have reps from everyone, from every division, on every committee, or is that too possible then to schedule meetings, right? I don't think there's one answer, so.
But we don't currently do that.
No, there's nothing in our bylaws that states that. Okay, so we got, we'll go to Martha, Kaiser, and Warren.
So again, I wasn't at that retreat, so if I'm not getting right here. I'm hung up on the core, I don't know what it's called, the bullet points. The core purpose. Right. So, and I recognize that Kaiser is commenting on whether those should be in there or not, but to me, a lot of those look like faculty development or professional development issues, and that's why I raised the issue of the faculty distribution. I don't really care if it's one, but I kind of think we have to have some idea, and I wonder what the relationship of this is to faculty development committees, because some of what you have listed up there seem like things that committee should be thinking about. So it's just.
Do you have a suggestion for the committee membership at all?
No, I don't, and I wasn't at the retreat, so I'm hesitant because I feel like I don't fully understand the discussion.
We didn't discuss this fully at the retreat. The suggestion just to create a student success committee was made. That's it. Kaiser?
Okay, so Martha, thank you. That was, I appreciate those comments. We do have, Tim, several of us sit on the Student Equity Committee. There's 4 members here that I know sit on the Student Equity Committee representing different divisions and different constituent groups. So I think that's the place to start. And if I recall correctly, the discussion at the retreat was to develop or think about how we can develop this in conjunction with data coming out. So student equity data is out. We don't necessarily have enough time as faculty. I will speak for myself. I don't have necessarily enough time to process the information to be able to give a real clear answer as to how I can reflectively change my practices to address or mitigate issues that are coming up instructionally. So student success, the way I see it, is take this analysis and research who does that, first of all, and how is it being supported, and then look at how that impacts my discipline, and then what kind of instructional strategies would I then apply. Those are all complicated and take time. I think we're from my perspective, I'm looking at about 18 months. I know we don't have that kind of time, but I think we need to back up a little bit and go with student equities to see what's happening in the committee, talk to the other faculty members that represent the academic senate and student equity before we even look at that. I'm truly concerned about the core purpose bullet points. I don't think those should be included at all at this point.
I'd like to motion to send it back to committee to rewrite the charge and mission statement.
There is no committee. This
Okay,
is
well,
just,
I like to.
it's the first stab at a suggestion.
Right, but whoever wrote this, okay, so let's not say the committee. So I like to send this back to the individuals to rewrite it and take in consideration the statements that have been made. Either we can eliminate the core purposes, or we can add to the core purposes the procedures. By, if we can say create connections, well, that's fine, but what is the process by which you're going to create connections? I think we rather than being so generic, we should be more specific. So I'd like to have the individuals rewrite it, present it back to us at a future meeting. So I'd like to motion to send it back to individual.
Right, so can we complete the discussion so that we can give them our full range of feedback? I mean, I think that's the intent, right, is if we're not gonna approve this today, we need to send them our feedback, and I see a couple more hands raised, so just get their feedback and then we'll do that.
There's a motion on the floor, you decide if you want to do it or
So the
not.
motion is to send it back, so do you want to call the question? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'd like to send it back to the individuals or individual for a rewrite, take in consideration all the information that we stated today, that's all.
Okay, so the motion, so to address that, the motion is to approve this, and so if people feel that it needs to be taken back to committee and it's not being ready to approve as written, then we'll just vote no on it. Okay, so.
That's not my motion.
Well, but that's the motion on the floor.
No motion was ever made.
Yeah, so that's the.
No motion was ever made.
Do you want to say?
No, she's correct, that's how it works, you just say no, and then you discuss why you said no.
Okay, I have it on tape, no motion was ever made.
We've talked about this item for 10 minutes, and so I would like to call a vote. It sounds like we're not ready to approve it, and it needs to go for another draft, so all those in favor of approving this as written, say aye. All those opposed?
No.
Abstentions? Okay, so we'll bring it back with your feedback, thank you. Okay,
I made the motion 10 minutes ago.
all right, so the other two items are to approve these individuals to the committees that you see here. May I have a motion to approve?
Approval.
Have a second, Ani, discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right. Okay, old business, Janice Dwyer and Alicia Vargas are not available to do a presentation today, so they'll be on the next agenda item, so we'll move to new business. So we have Secretary Junie up to talk about chairs. You have 15 minutes to address the body.
Good afternoon. First of all, I apologize for breaking new rule number 7 if you have not yet approved. I apologize for that. There was a lot of work being done on this draft, and it got finished over the weekend, and I don't have all your emails. I don't know everybody here, so it got sent out this morning. So I will get better at that. So obviously, this is not a new conversation. It's my understanding that you all have been talking about chairs, coordinators for a while. And so what this is a new draft of what that might look like. This is also not something that I am expecting approval of today. In fact, I don't want your approval today because it's a draft that is still a conversation. And so what I'm basically here for is to talk a little bit about this, talk about the whys, and then talk about some of the details of how these people would be selected, evaluated, etc., along with the duty list, to get some input from you, but I really don't expect that we're going to have enough time today to get all the input you might have into this. I'm also having conversations with the deans about this. I will be sending out a draft of this duty list to all of the people who are currently in a position that looks like this, that we call different things at PCC. And so part of the idea is that we become a little bit more uniform in how we do this, and rather than having leads, coordinators, whatever they might be called in different areas, that we do it all one way, and that every department has someone that does that job. Now, let me make that clear. That doesn't mean that every department has a person that is their coordinator. There will be some people who are coordinators of multiple departments, because not all departments are probably large enough to have their own coordinator. Now, in this document also, at some places it refers, well, this one just refers to program and department coordinators. On the agenda, it's listed as chairs/coordinators. There's different models out there. The chair model is usually an individual that is elected by the faculty within the department division. A coordinator model, a different selection process. And so as you can see by what's on the selection and hiring process, this is a different process. This person is actually being hired by the dean with recommendation from faculty within the area who would have input into that hiring process. I know you all just got this morning, so I don't know if you all had enough time to look at it. I can kind of walk through, so I'll do that as a question. Do you want me to walk through it in a little more detail, or do you have questions that you'd kind of like to direct that conversation with?
Valerie, can I ask a clarification?
Sure.
Could you repeat what you just said, the person would be hired by the division dean, is that what you
They're
said?
hired by the dean, but the hiring process allows for the faculty within the area that they would be overseeing to have input to that hiring process.
Is there a term of service for this? Is the person you hired indefinitely, or
Yeah, that came out actually. There would be probably a 2 or 3 year term. What would change that term is if the position changed. And so how that might happen basically is if we needed to reconfigure it because a department got too big or got too small, so we needed to add another one. And so if a reconfiguration like that occurred, then we would apply it again so that all the appropriate faculty would have the opportunity to apply for it.
Seems like a nice opportunity for people in the division to try this out and see if they want to slide into administration.
It is, for those who think of moving into administration, it is a good way to do that. It was actually my first administrative job was doing something like this at another college. Am I calling her?
No, Krista, Mark, and Martha, and then Martha.
So, I'm sorry, could you clarify, did you say this is only for the department and program coordinators and not faculty chairs, or you're
No,
considering?
so we're not going to call it chair. We're going to call it coordinator, whether it, and I hate to say department coordinator because in some cases, and it says that on top that the department is an organizational structure composed of one or more related disciplines for organizational purposes. Multiple disciplines may form a single program department. And so I don't know the departments at PCC well enough to pick small ones. But if you have a small department with just a couple of faculty and doesn't have a large schedule, then that would be combined with other like departments that are similar. If we're talking something as large as English or math, that they would not be combined with other things. But if you're talking smaller programs, they would be combined and have one person that was the coordinator over multiple small departments.